Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS. In this lecture, we are going to discuss current affairs of 19th March 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 7 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see first article. Title says Supreme Court to hear plea against sale of electoral bonds. So this article mainly focusing on this electoral bonds. So this article will be very important regarding polity, which comes under GS paper 2. So this article is important regarding both prelims and also mains. So first we are going to see what is context, and we are going to see some important details of this article which are highlighted here, and we are going to see some prelims based facts and also mains based facts also. So today's mains question also based on this electoral bonds. So please focus on this article. So now let us try to see what is context, why this electoral bonds is in news. So our CJI, that is Chief Justice of India, agreed to hear a plea by NGO Association for Democratic Reforms mainly to stay on sale of new set of electoral bonds from April 21. So as we know, we are going to have assembly polls, right? So in this assembly polls, so there will be some electoral bonds that will be purchased by people mainly to donate to these political parties. Especially we have assembly elections regarding West Bengal and as well as Tamil Nadu. So here recently NGO Association for Democratic Reforms, they mainly went for Supreme Court mainly to stay sale of this new set of electoral bonds from April 21st. So why here NGO Association went for stay here? So if you understand some facts, so recently RBI and as well as Election Commission of India had both said that sale of these electoral bonds that became an avenue for shell corporations and as well as some other entities to park illicit money, and it also includes some proceeds of bribes to these political parties. That means whenever any organizations or any corporations or any shell corporations, whenever they are going for funding to these political parties, so it is like a giving bribe, okay? And as well as many people, they are using this illicit money or black money for this political party funding. So this is important information that is given by RBI and as well as Election Commission of India. So because of this, we need to go for stay of this electoral bonds, okay? So now let us see about some details which are highlighted in this article. So some details here is, first one is according to Finance Act 2017, it mainly introduced use of electoral bonds in our country. So you have to remember this act for sure, through which act we went for introduction of this electoral bonds in India. That is Finance Act of 2017. So this act will exempt disclosure under Representation of People's Act of 1951. So because of this electoral bonds that open doors for unchecked, unknown funding to parties, that is political parties. And because of some recent amendments to this, it mainly removed existing cap of about 7.5% of net in past 3 years on this campaign donation. So because of this, now companies, they have legalized this anonymous donations. And if you're talking about these contributions mainly received by this eligible political party in this form of electoral bonds, they are also exempted from income tax. So these are some important details which are highlighted in this article. And now let us see some facts regarding this article. So facts regarding what are these electoral bonds. So electoral bonds, it is a financial instrument mainly used for making donations to registered political parties. And these bonds are issued in multiples of rupees 1,000, rupees 10,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 1 crore, etc. without any maximum limit. So this is important prelims fact. And next one is which bank is authorized, that is State Bank of India. So you have to remember this fact, okay? State Bank of India, it is mainly authorized to issue and to encash these bonds. And after issuing these bonds, it will be valid for 15 days from days of issuance, okay? And these bonds are also available for purchase by any person who is citizen of India or incorporated or established in India, so it is eligible. So for a period of 10 days in each month of January, April, July and October, so they are going for this issuing of this electoral bonds. And person being an individual, they can also buy bonds singly or by jointly. So in this context, donor name, it is not mentioned in bond. So because of this, there is no transparency. We can say there is no transparency in this electoral bonds, because there is no disclosure of information of that person who contributed to political party. And now let us see what are concerns. Okay, so these concerns will be important regarding mains. So first and foremost concern here is anonymity. So there is neither the donor nor political party is obliged to reveal information, okay, from where this donation come. Okay, so in this way it mainly undercuts freedom of political information, which is mainly entitled under Article 19 subclass 1 subclass A. Okay, and if you're talking about this anonymity, recently Supreme Court in 2019, it said that political parties who had received donations through electoral bonds, they must submit their details to Election Commission of India. And second most concern here is black money. So most of this money which is sponsored to these political parties, that will be black money. Okay, because of elimination of cap of about 7.5% on corporate donations. So because of this, what happened, there is increased inflow of black money into this electoral bonds. And next important issue here is regarding transparency. So there is no transparency. This transparency is defeating through this electoral bonds. And next one is asymmetric opacity. So whenever government want to go for this information who donated, here they can approach banks. So because of this, government is always in a position to know who is donor, which are those bonds which are purchased through this SBI. So because of this, we have asymmetry information, which mainly threatens color and the process in favor of which political party it is in ruling. So these are some important concerns regarding this electoral bonds. And if you see today's mains question, it is based on this topic, as I said earlier. So question here is, why were electoral bonds introduced in India? What are concerns of electoral bond scheme? Elaborate. So try to write answer within word limit of 250 words. And now let us see next topic. Title says India has assured Sri Lanka for support. So this article mainly focusing on human rights council, that is United Nations Human Rights Council. So this topic is very much important regarding prelims. And this article is important regarding international relations, which comes under GS paper 2. So now let us have a detailed discussion on this topic. First, we are going to see context, why it is in use, and we are going to see some details of this article, and as well as some facts regarding this United Nations Human Rights Council. So that will be very important for prelims. And if you see context here, India has assured Sri Lanka of its support at United Nations Human Rights Council. So why India is assured here? Because recently what happened in this Human Rights Council sessions, that is in Geneva here, that is mainly usually invoking sharp responses for nationalist forces. So here, if you are talking about majority group in Sri Lanka, that is Sinhalese Buddhist majority. So there is allegation that this Sinhalese Buddhist majority mainly sees process at targeting their country in interfering in sovereignty of their country. So because of this, Sri Lanka mainly categorically rejected this United Nations Human Rights Chief latest report. So this report mainly said that majority of this Sri Lanka, that is Sinhalese Buddhist majority, they are mainly targeting their country and they are interfering in sovereignty of country. So whatever statement which is given by this United Nations Human Rights Council mainly rejected by this Sri Lanka here. So in this way, it is mainly reaching other countries to support Sri Lanka in this United Nations Human Rights Council. So it also approached China, and also it approached India. So there are some approaches that are doing by the Sri Lanka to support Sri Lanka in United Nations Human Rights Council. So we are going to understand why Sri Lanka came and approached India at end of this. Okay, and if you see some facts regarding this United Nations Human Rights Council, it is an intergovernmental body within United Nations system, and this United Nations Human Rights Council, which is mainly responsible for strengthening the promotion and as well as even protection of human rights around our world. Okay, so it is mainly responsible for strengthening, promotion and protection of human rights around world. So if you are talking about formation of this Human Rights Council, so this council was created by United Nations General Assembly in year 2006, and this council replaced former United Nations Commission on Human Rights. So if you see Office of High Commission of this Human Rights, it mainly serves as Secretariat of Human Rights Council and headquarters mainly located at Geneva in Switzerland. So if you see some members of this United Nations Human Rights Council, there are about 47 UN members. They are mainly elected by United Nations General Assembly. And this council membership, it is mainly based on equitable geographical distribution. There are some seats which are mainly allocated to some regions. So if you're talking about East European states, there are 6 seats which are reserved, and for African states there are 13 seats, and Asia Pacific states there are 13 seats, Latin America and Caribbean states they have 8 seats, and Western European and other states they have 7 seats. So in this way there is reservation of seats for this membership of this council. So these are some important facts that you should remember. And now let us see relationship between India and United Nations Human Rights Council. So this part will be important regarding mains. So if you are talking about India and UNHRC, recently a group of special rapporteurs of UN, they written to Indian government regarding expressing concerns over draft Environment Impact Assessment Notification 2020. And even in 2020, India's National Human Rights Commission, it submitted a mid-term report to Council here. It is as a part of Universal Periodic Review process. And even India was elected to Council for a period of 3 years, and it is mainly beginning from January 2019. That means we are going to chair this till 2022, right? So because of this, India, which is elected for a period of 3 years to this United Nations Human Rights Council, Sri Lanka approached India for support. Okay, so this is gist of this article. And now let us see next article. Title says Rajya Sabha passes bill to raise FDI limit in insurance sector. So what is this FDI? That is foreign direct investment. So we are going to increase foreign direct investment from 49% to 74% in this insurance sector. Mainly to bring this change, we are going to pass one bill. Okay, name of that bill is Insurance Amendment Bill of 2021. So this bill, it is going to amend Insurance Act of India. So now let us try to understand this article in a great detail. So this article is important regarding GS paper 2 under polity, and even this article is important regarding economy, which comes under GS paper 3. And regarding this topic, you need to know some facts regarding what is this FDI. So this will be important from prelims point of view. So first homework I want to give here is, please do some research regarding this. What is this FDI? What is difference between FDI and FII? Okay, please let me know in comment box. Don't forget about this. And now let us try to understand this article. So this article mainly focusing on Insurance Amendment Bill 2021. So what is context here? So if you see context, it mainly says that Rajya Sabha passed bill. So this bill mainly talks to increase maximum foreign investment allowed in these insurance companies or insurance sector, that increased from 49% to 74%, and this bill passed in Rajya Sabha now. So now let us try to see some facts regarding this Insurance Act of 1938 of India. So this bill mainly want to amend one important act, that is Insurance Act 1938. So if you are talking about this Insurance Act 1938, we need to remember 3 important points. So first one is, it provides mainly framework for functioning of insurance business, and it will also regulate the relationship between insurer, policy holders, shareholders, and as well as regulator, that is IRDA. Okay, Insurance Regulation and Development Authority. So it is regulator of this insurance in India. So first one is this Insurance Act that will provide framework of functioning of insurance business. It will also go on to regulate relationship between insurer and as well as policy holders, shareholders and also regulators. Okay, and if you're talking about this bill, it is mainly seeking to increase maximum foreign investment allowed in this insurance company. We are going to increase from 49% to 74%. So second important point that you should remember regarding this Insurance Act of 1938 is regarding foreign investment. Okay, so this act mainly allowed foreign investment, it is about 49%, and now we came up with this bill. So this bill increases this limit of FDI from 49 to 74%, and this bill also removes restrictions on ownership and as well as control of insurance sector. And this foreign investment through this new bill that may be subjected to additional conditions which are mainly prescribed by central government. So these are about this act and as well as bill regarding this foreign investment. And now let us see about third important area, that is regarding investment assets. So this act mainly says that insurers to hold a minimum investment in asset. Okay, that minimum investment that would be sufficient to clear insurance claim liabilities. Okay, so if at all any investor who is outside India, at least 33% of capital owned by investor, they should be domiciled outside India, and 33% of members of governing body should outside India. So these are some explanations which are given under this Insurance Act of 1938, and this bill mainly removes this explanation also. So these are three important changes that are coming up by this new investment bill of 2021 in this Investment Act of 1938. So these are some important things that you should remember here. And now let us see next article. Title says Rise CAA S-400 deal with India. So this article mainly talking about India-US relations. So this article also focused on one important thing, that is CAATSA. Okay, so this CAATSA is very important. This CAATSA mainly stands for Countering American Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. So this act came up by Donald Trump government. So now let us try to understand this article. So this article will be important regarding GS paper 2 under international relations. So why this CAA and as well as S-400 deal is in news? So from March 19 to 21, we are going to have a meeting between US and India here. So in this context, US Senator mainly writes to Defense Secretary, says that India mainly deviating from shared values here. So now let us see what are events that led to deviation from democracy. Okay, so this article context mainly says that US Senator writes to Defense Secretary, says that India is deviating from shared values and India is moving away from democratic values. So if you see some important details which are mainly highlighted in this article, they mainly says that there is increased concerns about India's democracy, and India it is going to purchase S-400 Russian missile system. So it is one of important cause of concern for USA. And next one is there is crackdown of journalists and as well as critics of government recently in India. And there is also arrest of political opponents because of revocation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir. And next important event is there is rising anti-Muslim sentiment in India, and we have led to this anti-Muslim sentiment because of spread of this coronavirus. And next one is handling farmers protest. We did not handle this farmers protest efficiently, though the farmers protest it is peacefully done. So there is some violation that is seen. And next one is there is use of sedition law and as well as Citizenship Amendment Act. So these are some events that led to moving of India from away from this democratic values. So this is according to this article. So even if you are talking about Freedom Index recently released by US think tank, that is Freedom House, so it also said that there is stripping of freedom in India. So because of all these reasons, it mainly underscores deteriorating situation of democracy in India. So now let us see about CAATSA sanctions. So if you are talking about this CAATSA, it mainly stands for Countering American Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. So India, if it is purchasing this S-400 for just rupees just $5.5 billion that could attract sanctions under this 2017 law. So this law came up by former US government, that is Donald Trump administration. So Trump administration gave repeated message that this sanction waivers, they are not automatic. They will be decided by case basis. So India, if it is going for purchasing of this S-400 under section 231 of this CARSA, it may attract sanctions under this CARSA Act. So these are some important points which are mainly discussed in this article. And now let us see next article. Title says rising cases may lead RBI to delay liquidity normalization. So this article mainly talking about monetary policy of RBI. Okay, so this article mainly focusing on this monetary policy of RBI. So this is one important topic under economy, which comes under GS paper 3, and this topic will be important regarding both prelims and as well as mains. So now let us try to understand this article in a great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that India's central bank may have to delay start of monetary policy normalization. So till now, because of onset of this COVID-19 pandemic, we led to imposition of national-wide lockdown. So because of imposition of national-wide lockdown, that led to disruptions of supply chains, and we also evident of economic contraction. Okay, economic contraction that is seen in Q1 and Q2, and in Q3 and Q4 we saw some positive signs of recovery. So because of some positive signs of recovery, so RBI mainly thought that it can come back to the top this contraction policy here. But what happened now, there is increase in number of cases. So because of increase in number of cases, again we need to go for restriction of movement and restriction of economic activity. So because of this, we cannot go for contractionary policy here. Again we need to extend, okay, again we need to extend this monetary policy of RBI for further 3 months. So this is some of background here. So understand this article, you have to know this background. So because of COVID-19 pandemic, what happened, we went for national-wide lockdown. So because of this national-wide lockdown, there is disruption of supply chains, there is alteration of our economic activities, almost all sectors, even manufacturing, service sectors that are in a back phase, and only agriculture which is showing some positive growth in this time. So because of economic contraction, that is mainly evident in Q1 and as well as Q2, and Q3 and Q4 we come up with some point of positive thing, right? So because of this, RBI mainly thinking to come back to its liquidity normalcy. But now because of increase in number of cases, again we are facing second wave of this coronavirus now. So again we need to have some restriction in our economic activities, movement, etc. So we need to go for extension of this policy, whatever coming up by RBI here. So RBI mainly focusing on to increase liquidity in market. So whenever there is increase in liquidity, we can go for economy revival here. So how increase in liquidity, that will leads to economic revival. So whenever there is low rates, okay, whenever RBI going for low interest rates, that means banks have more money to lend. So banks will lend, okay. So because of lending, money is present in hands of people. So because of money, when it is present in hands of people, they will go to market and they will make demands for goods and services. So because of this, there will be increased demand for goods and services in market, and because of this increase in demand, now these manufacturing companies, they will go for increasing in their manufacturing, such that will finally leads to economic revival of economy. So this is about the thing you should understand here. So if you see context here, it mainly says that India's central bank may have to delay start of this monetary policy normalization by 3 months amid rising COVID-19 cases. That means because of this increasing of this COVID-19 cases, we need to go for extension of this monetary policy which is following by this RBI for further 3 months. So in this way, analyst mainly says that there will be no significant threat to economic recovery even when we are going for extension for next 3 months. So now let us see some details regarding this article. So whenever we are going for increase in current case load of cases here, so we are seeing some risk of second wave. So in this way, because of this risk of second wave, whenever we want to decrease transmission of this COVID-19, we need to go for localized actions and as well as less stringent restrictions. So this mainly helps to contain economic impact also. Okay, so whenever we are going for this monetary policy normalization, so it might push back by quarter as authorities they monitor some development activities closely. So in this context, RBI said that it wanted to start restoring this normal liquidity operations in a phased manner, but it is not good to take this action now because of increasing rising of cases. Okay, now let us see some facts here. Facts regarding monetary policy of RBI. So first of all, let us try to understand what is this monetary policy. So this policy mainly, monetary policy refers to policy of RBI, that is Central Bank of India. So in this monetary policy mainly deals with interest rates, for example repo rate, reverse repo rate, etc. And next one is it also deals with money supply and also it deals with availability of credit. So these three are interlinked. So now let us try to understand how they are interlinked. So if you are talking about monetary policy, it is talking about interest rates. For example, we have repo rate and as well as reverse repo rate. So whenever these reverse repo or repo which is decreased by RBI, then what happened? There will be increased money supply. Okay, increased money supply or increased money with banks. So whenever there is increased money with these banks, so what will these banks do? These banks, they will go for lending, right? They will go for increased lending. So because of lending, there will be increased money supply in market, right? So whenever we have increased money supply, there will be increased demand for goods and services. So I said here these three are interlinked. So first one is interest rate. So interest rates which comes under monetary policy of RBI. So whenever interest rates which is decreased, there will be increased money supply. So that is second thing. So whenever there is increased money supply or whenever there is increased money with banks, it will also go for increased lending. That means there will be easily availability of credit. Okay, so this is about monetary policy of RBI. Okay, so through this monetary policy, RBI mainly controls inflation in country. That means whenever inflation, so what, first of all, what is this inflation? Inflation means there is increase in price of goods and services in market. So whenever there is increase in inflation, so here RBI will come up with contractionary monetary policy. That means it will try to decrease liquidity in market. So whenever there is decreased liquidity, then what happen? Money with people will be less, so that there will be control of price of goods and services that is seen. And if you see various monetary instruments, they include repo rate, reverse repo rate, SLR, that is statutory liquidity ratio, and as well as cash reserve ratio. So if you are talking about repo rate, what is this? So here we have RBI, that is central bank. Here we have other banks. So whenever banks are getting some loans or money from RBI, so on that money banks need to pay interest rate. So that interest rate, it is called as repo rate. So what is reverse? Reverse means you have to reverse that. So whenever RBI it is getting money, okay, so whenever RBI is getting money from banks, so on that money RBI need to pay interest rate, right? So that interest rate which is paid by RBI to bank, that is called as reverse repo rate. Generally this reverse repo rate which is less compared to that of this repo rate. So these are some important points that you should remember regarding this article. And if you see types of this monetary policy, we have mainly two types. First one is expansionary monetary policy. Second one is contractionary monetary policy. Expansionary monetary policy means this key interest rates like repo rate, reverse repo rate, that will be decreased by RBI such that there will be increased money supply in market. So whenever we are going for increased money supply in market, that mainly comes under this expansionary monetary policy. And next one is contractionary. Contractionary means we are increasing interest rates. So whenever we are increasing interest rates, there will be decrease in money supply in market. So to decrease money supply, we are going for this contractionary monetary policy, and whenever we want to increase this money supply in market, we will go for expansionary. Expansion is also called as accommodative monetary policy of RBI. So this is gist of this article. I hope it is very clear now. Now let us see next article. Title says Aadhaar has a hurdle. So this article background yesterday in our lecture we discussed, right? So we discussed that there are 3 crore ration cards, they are cancelled by government, and reason here is they are bogus cards, they are not linked there to their Aadhaar. So now this article mainly trying to say that inefficiencies in this Aadhaar project should not come in way of welfare delivery. So that means we have this PDS system, we have National Food Security Act. So under this we are mainly providing some food grains at subsidized prices to poor people who are below poverty line. So whenever we are providing this subsidized food grains, that will be helpful mainly to protect right to food of people, and we can also ensure food security, and we can also decrease malnutrition. So these all are comes under this welfare programs. So whenever we are saying that these ration cards are not linked with this Aadhaar, and when we are cancelling for this 3 crore of this ration card, it is not good. Okay, so because of this we need to come up with a solution. So this is this article. So this is some gist of this article. Now let us try to understand this article in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that recently petition filed by a woman belongs to Jharkhand that her 11-year-old daughter died because of starvation. So petition filed in Supreme Court regarding cancellation of about 3 crore ration cards, as they are not linked with Aadhaar database. So because of this cancellation of these ration cards, that led to increase in starvation deaths in some states. So what are those states? We already discussed in our yesterday's lecture. So if you have not watched yesterday's lecture, please go back and watch yesterday's lecture. And if you see some details here, so recent data estimated that nearly 90% of India, mainly projected population, they have been assigned this Aadhaar number. So if you see some cause of concern here, so mainly there is some failures in use of identity verification projects by these illiterate, actually from rural areas or tribal people. So there is also some inefficiencies in biometric authorization and also updating, because some remote areas or remote village areas or rural village areas, they do not have proper internet availability, internet facility. And next one is use of Aadhaar payment bridge is also present, and linking of Aadhaar with bank accounts, it is also one important cause of concern. Many people, they don't know they have to link their bank accounts with their Aadhaar because of illiteracy. And because of all these things, the benefits that should be get for these people mainly through this PDS system or MG Narega or LPG subsidy. So all these benefits, to get these beneficiaries, they need to require this Aadhaar number, right? So because of some inefficiencies and as well as some failures regarding this Aadhaar, that is leading to inconvenience, and as well as finally people are suffering a lot. Okay, so this is about some cause of concern. So if you see some reports here, it mainly shows that it mainly shows some failure in authentication that have led to delays in dispersal benefits to this targeted people, and denial due to cancellation of some legitimate beneficiary. So finally in this way, that is led to starvation deaths in some states here. So what will be issues? The issues here is regarding biometric authentication failure at large scale, and there is also technological intensive projects that cannot be run in all remote areas, and there are also some problems regarding false negative and some manual workers and as well as hard laborers. So those fingerprint changes will come over time, and as well as people who are suffering from leprosy, they will also lose their fingerprints. Okay, so because of this biometric authentication, when we are not providing this rationalized or we can say subsidized food grains for these people, that will mainly violate right to food of their people. Okay, so in this way, what happen if many people, they are having these identity cards or they are having these Aadhaar cards, they don't know like how to use them sometimes, and they may lose these cards. So because of this, what is need, what can be done? So if you are talking about need here, the first thing we can do is we can go for decentralized dispersal of services at panchayat level. So at panchayat level, we should go for providing of these services. And next one is state government and as well as central government, they should do well to allow alternative identification if they do not link their ration card with their Aadhaar cards. Okay, so in this way, genuine beneficiaries, they should not be denied of these subsidies because of lack of linkage of this Aadhaar. And next one is we need to also deal with some questions of fraud that can still be addressed mainly by using some other verification cards. So these are some important way forward that is given in this article. And now let us see next article. So before saying this article, I want to make a small announcement. We came up with this current affairs package course. So this course is exclusively important for students who want to give their attempt in 2022. So in this course, we are mainly focusing on current affairs and also mains answer writing practice. So if you ask me what is importance of current affairs, about 50 to 60% of questions, either it may be prelims or mains or even interview. So you can expect questions from this current affairs. And if you are getting any static based questions, they are also related to this current affairs. So mastering of current affairs, it is an important key to clear UPSC. And if you ask me what is importance of this mains answer writing practice, many fresher students, they mainly ignore this answer writing practice. They might think that we shall start this answer writing practice after completing NCERTs, after completing standard books, but this approach will not work for UPSC. So on day one of your preparation, you need to focus on how to improve your answer writing skills. Okay. If you join this course, we provide you daily one question and as well as one essay on Sunday. So these questions and essay will be sent to you through mail. So after writing essays and answers, you need to send in a PDF format, and we will be evaluating and we will be providing you feedback. So if you are following that feedback, then you can gradually improve your answer. And at the end of the day, we will be also providing you one best answer also. So if you join this course, we also provide you prelims practice questions on weekly basis along with video solutions. So in this way, this course is exactly focusing on what is demand of UPSC. You need to focus on current affairs, you need to focus on mains answer writing skills and also prelims practice. Okay. So finally, I want to say one thing. This course is exclusively useful mainly to clear UPSC prelims and as well as mains. Okay. So please try to join this course and don't take this course as a choice. So details of this course are given in description box, and if you want to talk to me personally, you can also contact us. Okay. And now let's come back and let us see next article. Title says for a reset. So this article mainly talking about US-China relations. Again, this article will be important regarding international relations, which comes under GS paper 2. So if you see central theme of this article, it mainly says that there is no hope of sudden improvement in US-China ties, but Alaska meet it is a start. So this article mainly focusing on this US-China relations. So this article mainly said about what are tensions between US and China and what are discussions that are going to be what are topics that are going to be discussed in this Alaska meet. So now let us try to understand this article in a great detail. So if you see context here, top diplomats from US and China, they begin their meeting in Alaska. And some areas of concern between USA and China, they include trade ties regarding 5G telecommunications and technology espionage and Chinese maritime actions and Chinese presence that increased in Indo-Pacific region, and also US sanctions on China because China went for purchasing of S-400 missile system from Russia. And next one is Trump, earlier former administration of US, that is Donald Trump, he said that coronavirus as if China virus. So these are some areas of concern between China and US. Now let us see new administration, that is Biden administration officials. They said that they will bring up China crackdown regarding mainly aggressiveness in Xinjiang and as well as Hong Kong province, and China's aggression at US allies and as well as partners. For example, if you are talking about India, so we have Chinese aggression that is seen at LAC region, and aggression against Japan regarding Senkaku Islands, and aggression in Australia regarding trade bans and as well as Kiribati Islands. So in all these areas, they are going to have something. Okay. And next important one is China. It is also seeking reversal of Trump era policies and structured dialogue to forward ties, and China is also thinking to end US sanctions and as well as restrictions on American firms and as well as some manufacturing in China, and as well as regarding visa bans. It is mainly thinking that these policies will be reversed. and China is also thinking to reopen consulate in Houston. So these are some important areas of concern regarding China. And if you see some possible discussions in this meet, they are going to talk about climate change and as well as how to deal with this COVID-19 challenge and as well as global economical recovery. So if you are talking about why we are talking about global economic recovery, whenever there is tension between US and China, what is impact on global economy? So according to report of World Economic Forum, it said that because of US-China tariffs, that could cost world, that is about $600 billions. Okay, so in this context, this article finally said that there is no hope of a sudden improvement. So whenever they are going for a first meet here, there will be no sudden improvement, but we can see some improvement in this US-China ties in future. So this Alaska meet, it will be a good start. Okay, so this is about gist of this article. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture, right? So by this we are concluding today. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to enroll this current affairs package. Thank you so much.